Up now, we have Forum Daily's Energy Update with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy.
Well, thank you again, Nima. And if I had been a betting person this time last week, I would have never guessed that a couple of bank issues in the United States would have seen such turbulence on energy markets. But such is the world we live in today, where it isn't, where if it isn't the Fed and nervousness over so-called traders being involved with taking their positions and worrying about decline of demand as a result of higher interest rates. We have this week the same group, but perhaps aided and abetted by money managers and banks in particular, liquidating their positions in oil and gas and energy in general. And perhaps that's also true of the other aspects of the equities markets. But what we're really seeing here is a banking crisis that is driving the price of a barrel of oil and all other commodities down to levels that really don't reflect fundamentals whatsoever, supply and demand. We have to know that the oil price of oil today, considering supply, considering the demand picture, especially in the second half of this year, is going to fall short. The price of oil at $65 a barrel for West Texas Intermediate, $70 for Brent, is probably oversold and undervalued by at least $15 a barrel. I think 80 to 90 is where it ought to be, all things being considered equal. But that, of course, means good news for consumers, and we've seen some of that. So let's start with British Columbia, where in Vancouver we've seen prices now trend towards $1.76. In, of course, Alberta, $1.25 to $1.27, Calgary and Edmonton. Stubbornly, prices are still quite sticky in Saskatchewan, where they stay at $1.56. Why, I don't know. Retailers are doing extraordinarily well. We should be expecting a drop there. And of course, in the same ditto for Winnipeg, which is seeing in Manitoba $1.52. That's substantially higher than the $1.37 or $1.38 it costs them to buy the fuel. Ontario has seen a pretty dramatic decrease down to the $1.40 range. It's likely to, after Saturday, stay there or go back down to $1.39.9 or under sub $1.40. Montreal, $1.56. And of course, the Maritimes in the $1.46 to $1.60 range, depending on the province and the different tax treatments. The reality is, I think we can expect, if markets continue to show this kind of pessimism that we have not seen in a very long time, and shades of concern that this may be a canary in the coal mine, if you will, for a potential global recession, then we could see prices across Canada drop 5 or 6 cents a liter. And I think that's likely to remain until at least this time next week, Nima, because we're looking at a requirement, at least in the United States, to have banks revisit their balance sheets to make sure that they're salvageable and that there is no further problems. It will be very telling to see what happens this time next week. And nervous Nellies who believe that supply and demand has nothing to do with all this are likely to move even further. And with some banks and other financial institutions looking for quick cash to pad their assets, if you will. At the end of the day, there's a lot of moving parts, to use an expression. Inflation, the drive to lessen the amount of supply of oil and other products in the world has given rise to extraordinary inflation. Of course, it isn't lost on Canadians that weak Canadian dollar, 137 pennies to buy a US dollar, even though oil is relatively strong, means that Canada, of course, and Canadians can continue to see their purchase power being eroded by about a third of where they would be, say, in 2011, 2012, or at any point in the past when oil was relatively strong. This very much a product of the green agenda of the federal Liberal government and its friends in the NDP, the Bloc, and the Greens. But it does mean that the inflationary crisis, everyone wants to dance around the issue. I'm not prepared to do that. Food prices on the rise, cost of heating, cost of housing, cost of rental, cost of everything, much higher because of the cost of energy. And that is something that Canada could have been a solution to, chose not to, and cheerfully voted to bring about the blockage, the disruption of our oil and gas sector. So now, of course, you have not just an energy crisis, you have actually very much an inflationary crisis that may be morphing into a financial security question over the next couple of weeks. I'll leave it for now, Nima, but suffice it to say, holding off a little bit might save you a few pennies, especially after this Sunday. We'll talk next week.
All right, certainly a lot to keep our eyes on. Thanks for that, Dan. Again, that was Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy.